I'm hungry. Welcome back, everyone, to the 2218 Attitude for Gratitude weekly live podcast. And it sounds like a lot of feedback, but there it went away. So, we're getting it figured out as usual every week. Tonight, we're having a podcast with some ambiance, really just in the dark. We're going to see if that does any better for us with the background noise. Still trying to hack out all these technical stuff. But I think we were golden. This is the first week I was able to play music and come in without having to worry about this, that, and the third. So, as always, 2218's Attitude for Gratitude weekly podcast. The Alamo Society of Minneapolis. This is the little, what's it called, the ticker going along the bottom of the screen right now if you're watching this. But it's our vision statement. It is to be the premier Alamo clubhouse serving the greater Twin Cities that offers support and strength to those who suffer from addiction and their families. 2218, this is where we have the podcast from. This is the place that saves lives. This is the place that helps out in the community. It has events throughout the year. It's got multiple different anonymous meetings that are held here. There's plenty of options to come start a meeting here. I will figure out how to get the link up. I know it's 2218.org. Elena, I'm not sure if she's going to be here later, but she's usually the one who puts the hyperlink up. So anyone who wants to donate can go through that hyperlink. Otherwise, just go to 2218.org. And if you're able to donate, please do. This club could definitely use any financial assistance. I know the totals are coming in from the Ride for Recovery, and from what I think I saw, it was like almost nearing 40 grand or something. I'm not 100% sure. I shouldn't even said that. I just thought that I was seeing somewhere along the totals where they're showing that we're doing really well with the money that came in, especially coming off the year or two after COVID. It's been real tough. It's been tough for all clubs out there. And the one thing I really want to stress is that if you know anyone who's struggling, you know anyone who's looking for a meeting, if you're looking for a meeting, come on down to 2218. There's daily meetings, early morning meetings, midday meetings, every single day of the week, evening meetings, like I said, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Crystal Meth Anonymous. I believe there's some Al-Anon coming on. There's a Wednesday young person meeting going on here. There's a lot that goes on. We have the 4-step workshop that happens every Wednesday with Rick and Jesse that we have on the show. They were on last week. This club does lots for the community. Make this your club. Come be a member. Down. Oh, am I loud? My guest is telling me, turn down my headphones. All right, so tell me if that worked, or that worked. It should be a little better. So, Jen is in the house tonight. I'll be bringing her in here shortly. I just wanted to get our our little, our ones and twos out of the way. But again, come down, make this your club. If you have any ideas for the show, reach out to me. I put my number on there. You can text me directly or just follow along. If we're able to, we have time, we will answer any questions. If there's something you want me to ask our guests, or if you just want to directly ask her, go ahead and post it. Otherwise, just reach out to me directly if you want to stay anonymous, and I'll make sure that we hit that topic. But if you have ideas for the show, reach out. If you want to see it going in a specific direction, or you have any ideas, just reach out. This is not my show. This is not any person's show. This is like the Recovery Communities podcast. So I know it's, matter of fact, a little side note, like I do just sit and babble on, but when I was new in recovery, I did not know. When I hopped into a meeting, like the first few times I walked in and I was like, oh, so who's the boss? Like, I didn't realize like this whole thing is ran by us, and there is not one single person who's like the boss. And that's the same as with this podcast. Like, this belongs to the recovery community. So that's why if there's a guest you want to hear on this show, if you want to be a guest on the show, just reach out. We'll get you scheduled and get you on here. This, like I said, this belongs to all of us. We're trying to figure out our ambiance in here. I could have brought some candles. I know I have some downstairs. It's just, I think with those lights on,
The flashlights work great.
is it? All right, I'll kill your phone down though. So we're having a little pizza tonight, and well, I'm having pizza. She's having the cheese. But I think we're gonna get into it pretty quick here. As always, share this with anyone and everyone. Post this to your page. Hit that like button. Smash that like button. Do all that good stuff that technology people would say, like I'm supposed to say to you on the technological side, but I just don't know it yet. So share this podcast with whomever that you know that could use a little taste or some recovery. That's the other thing I wanted to touch on is if there's meetings out there struggling, it doesn't have to be here at 2218. Anywhere across the metro, if you're trying to get attendance up at a meeting, post that information on here. Like we network on here, so that's quite a right to do that. I know there's some meetings that are still struggling coming out of COVID, so if you're looking to get the attendance up, post it. Like this is what we do here. This is a networking situation. And finally, you are not alone. You don't have to be alone. If you're struggling, please reach out. I put my number on here. Reach out to me directly. You don't have to be hurting. You are worthy. You're loved. Like life can be different if you're struggling. I always put up the suicide hotline number that I think is 899 or something. It's new now, but I will put that on there. Just remember, you don't have to be alone. Please reach out if you're struggling. So now, tonight, we have a returning guest. She was on, her and Brad were on the night before the Ride for Recovery, one of the first shows that I tried to do it all on my own, and it was a shit show. Like, we were trying to watch YouTube videos on how to use the equipment while the podcast was supposed to be going on, and it was a real shit show. But there were some real good things said that night that I'm going to be having Jen reshare because I think it's real important, and we're going to talk about what she does for work. We're going to talk about her recovery. We're going to talk about the stars and the moon and the quasars, all that good stuff. So let's get right on into it. Who am I sitting here with?
Jen B.
All right. Welcome, Jen. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah, and thank you. She answered the call like, well, wait a sec. You know what? We're going to get this right out in the open right away. So I was like, I texted her, I don't know, it was like 2 weeks ago or something, like, hey, can you come be on the show? And she, what did you say you had?
I gave you a couple of dates that I was
No. The reason you couldn't come that night, what was going on with you? Remember?
I had COVID.
That's right. So she was like, oh, it sucks. What was it? Let's just start there. What was COVID like?
Well, it was the second time that I had it. And I thought I just had allergies. And then when I started getting really tired, I got all my vaccines and I got it for Christmas.
You say it like it was a present.
I know. And and so I got it again. And, it happened. I basically realized I had it on a Friday, so I didn't have to miss too much work. And,
Girl
it is
power.
what it is. It could always been worse.
So what you work in, I don't want to jump that far yet.
Okay.
The reason I say that is because you work somewhere where you're around a lot of people that sometimes might not be too health conscious or on top of vaccinations or what have you. So being that it's the second time you have COVID, like were you able to pinpoint where you got it from?
No.
Yeah.
Actually, I think my boss gave it to me.
What? Why? Did your boss have it? Prior to you?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, and whatever.
Like around the same time.
I mean,
I think
doesn't matter.
Gave it to her. Like
right.
It's all.
I doubt she manifested it herself. So
right.
Everyone got it from somewhere.
I don't think she was patient zero.
No. So I asked her because I wanted her to come. Like ever since her and Brad were on, I've wanted them both back on the show because now that I've got things up and running and can figure out how to at least turn the machines on and make sure our audience can hear it, I wanted her back. So 2 weeks ago, something happened where I reached out to her and she said that she had COVID. Then she said, well, you had me down for these 2 dates. Then I reached out to her earlier in the week and said, hey, so you're on Friday, right? You know what, I'm about to pull my phone up, but you messaged me back as though like, you're like, well, I wasn't slotted until like the 20 something, but I can come in. tonight was one of the dates you gave me.
Was it?
Yeah, tonight was one of the 2 dates you said that you were scheduled to come on. So.
I honestly didn't really remember, and it wasn't on my schedule, but I made sure that I could be here.
And you are here, and that's awesome sauce. So I don't get to call you out on it because it's so dark. I don't even know where my phone is. So yeah, Jen's here, and we're gonna talk recovery stuff and her job and life. But she all week has been like gung. I don't know. Are you gung? Are you nervous about this, or how you been feeling about it?
You know, I've gone and shared my story in front of a lot of people, and I did like a regular speaking thing at Unity Outpatient. I went there once a month, and
I know the Wednesday night one.
no, it was during the day for the inpatient or the outpatient groups.
Okay.
I did that for like a year, and I, did some H&I stuff.
What's H&I?
Hospitals and institutions. So
okay. I might be asking you some questions. You're like, damn, I thought you had multiple years. I know what a lot of this is, but some of our audience might not. So
whatever you got to tell yourself.
What does relapse mean? All right, so
I had done it before, but yeah, I mean, yeah, this is different. No, I'm not that nervous. I just sometimes when I get talking, I can say some stuff, and then later on, I might be like, oh my gosh, that was live. I shouldn't have.
Don't even worry about it. This is recorded and millions are listening, so don't even worry about it. Like,
there's no going back now.
Yeah, no, there's like 100,000 that are live listening right now, so don't even worry. So you know what? You did kind of tell us a little bit experience, strength, and hope last time, but are you comfortable kind of giving us
sure.
I was gonna say a short version, but as long as you want, like, let's hear it. Like, when did you come into recovery? Like, how long have you been in it?
Well, do you want me to start?
Yeah, might as well.
More
like,
at the beginning?
You know what, if you're okay with it, tell our guests all about yourself. Let's hear about Jen. Now give me time to sit and feed my face too.
Right. So I grew up in like a really normal, stable family. Mom, dad, younger sister. No trauma or anything bad happened in my childhood at all. And it was great. But as I started getting older, like there was just little things that would start happening. Like I can remember being at a restaurant when I was like 8 or 9, and the waitress was passing out all the food to like a big party of people, and she hadn't even finished putting down the whole table's food, and like mine was gone. And my mom was like, "Did you just eat all that? Where did your food go?" And it was just like when I had something that I liked or enjoyed, it was like, gotta do it right away.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was like, what, you're just hungry? But this was more deep than that.
Yeah, yeah. And like, we're eating lunch and I'm like, I wonder what's for dinner. Like that kind of stuff. And like, I can remember having some thoughts like that when I was a kid and, not dwelling on it or anything. But as I got older, well, there was something funny that happened when I was like 9 or something. And I was figuring out what communion was in church. And, my parents drank like socially, not very often. I've never seen them intoxicated before. And, I would want to know what they were drinking. And my mom would be like, well, this is just for adults only. And I'm like, well, why? What's the reason for it? And well, it can make people feel kind of silly and make them feel good. And when I found out that they gave wine at communion,
that was your in?
Well, my question was to my mom, well, if it makes you feel good, why aren't they going through the line over and over again? And it was like a really matter-of-fact thought that I had.
And genuine curiosity from a 9-year-old.
Absolutely. Okay. And she looked at me and she was like, why would you think of something like that? Which is a pretty normal question to ask your kid, like. yeah, of course. So, I always like wanted to know, like, what it was. What was the special feeling that all these adults were, experiencing? And plus, as soon as somebody tells you something you can't have, I'd like some more. I don't know if that's just like something that's just like born in us. Like as soon as somebody gives us a rule, we're like, I wonder if I just do it this way a little bit, see what happens.
Right.
I wonder if I take 2, what will happen?
I mean, do you look back on this and like say, "Oh, that was my problem," or you look back and say, "This could be the beginning of"?
Well, I think during that time, of course, I didn't really think anything weird. But in hindsight, when I think back, like to the type of thinking that I have now and still have, and where some of my thinking has gotten me, I think that started at a very, very young age. And I did not have any outside input. Like, there was no child abuse. Like, I had a very loving, caring, stable family. And I always kind of wondered too, like, I always felt like, when I hear other people's stories and, I didn't realize how lucky I was to grow up the way that I was. And I always wondered, like, boy, these people have had some really severe trauma. I can understand. I mean, that makes sense to me why they would want to go out and stay high all the time. But I never really understood why I did, because I didn't have like this pain that I was in. But of course, I managed to create some.
Right. So quick, like, I might be doing this wrong. I'm sorry to sidetrack your story. I do recall when you were on the show last week, I recognized the familiarities with our stories. My story so far sounds the same as yours. Like, I was raised in a loving home. Like, I didn't sit and see addiction or drunk parents, or I wasn't beat on and neglected. But what I wanted to bring up and ask you was it these rooms? Because for me, that's how it was. These rooms were the first time that opened my eyes to like how good I really had it, and not knowing it until I got to these rooms by hearing how shitty some people's comeuppings were. Like, does that?
Oh, absolutely.
Was it these rooms that kind of?
Absolutely. But I also, when I experienced it firsthand and saw it with my own eyes, that was, yeah. Well, I'll get to that part later.
All right, come on.
So yeah, that was just some little things when I was younger. Like the first time that I drank, I was 14 and going to like a homecoming football game, I think. And I thought maybe a couple other people were going to drink, but I managed to like break into this locked liquor cabinet in my parents' bar and mix like 9 different kinds of liquor together and put it in a water bottle. Like, not just like, hurry up, I'm going to get this and bring it with. Well, I started drinking it myself.
A big old hurricane of just everything.
Everything. And, I took a little bit out of each bottle. So, I mean,
don't want to get caught.
So it tasted awful. I had horrible, like, it was not a pleasant experience. Like, I was the only one that was drunk. I made like a total fool of myself, but at the same time, I couldn't wait to do it again. But, that didn't happen again for like, I don't know, maybe a year, a couple of years.
Did you get in trouble?
No, I never got caught for that.
No consequences.
Well, there was a lot of shame when I went back to school the next day, because like I thought everybody was going to be partying, and here I started the party on my own. I'm pretty lucky I didn't get like alcohol poisoning or something.
Yeah, at 14.
Yeah, that was so dumb. So yeah, that, and then like I can remember being in high school and in health class, right? Like, in 9th grade, they took us to the Hazelton Youth Facility because it was across the street from my high school. And they brought us there to listen to these kids in treatment talk about addiction because it was part of our curriculum. And I remember listening to these people and thinking to myself, oh, I think I'm one of them.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And I thought, I feel like I might end up in a room like this someday, but not like saying, oh, I'm going to go and do this, this, and this. There were so many things that they were saying that just resonated with me. And of course, I didn't have like the mental capacity to like process that, but I always remembered sitting there thinking back, like, yeah, I didn't realize I would be there 5 years later.
Right.
Myself.
Yeah, that's kind of wild though that, you go to Hazelton, and at this point, had you really only partied at 14, or had you had a couple?
No, so like, going through high school, whenever there was actual drinking going on, I made sure that
you were part of that drinking.
Yeah, and I did some like, I always made sure that there was a way to get some alcohol. Like, that was my priority. Like, who's getting this? Are we getting it from this person's parents? Whatever.
Right.
And it wasn't like anything super crazy. And then of course, when weed came around, I would experiment with that. So just here and there, but really my bigger issue during that time was, a self-absorbed eating disorder, because,
well, that you had full access to food.
I did. And then, as I like kind of hit puberty, I didn't really like how my body was changing, and I was getting kind of chubby, and like, so then I just started reading about exercise, and I was just into like magazines, and like there's this image about how women were supposed to look, and I was comparing myself to other girls.
Oh, yeah.
I can remember like sitting in a classroom and, you know, the girl sitting next to me, the way her thighs looked in her shorts, sitting flat, and then just, you know, obsessing about the way mine looked. You know, that was not normal thinking at like Bible camp when you're 8 or 9.
And you would sit and obsess about
Like,
that
why is my leg so much bigger than hers? I want to be like her. I want to have legs like that.
I guess we've never really had a female on that. I've asked about this, but I mean, as a guy, I only experienced from a guy's point of view. And my own personal, I never gave a shit. Like, I lost my hair at 15, and I didn't make a big deal about it.
Sure.
And that could have been traumatic, as I saw with other family members who went through the same thing. But for a woman or a young lady to have society, you hear about it, but that must have been, especially with, I guess, having maybe an eating disorder, like you're saying, but then you're noticing these things. Like, how did you even get through that at those early ages? How did that?
Of course, we all start off nice and slow at first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it started with like gradual restricting. Then I'm like exercising with some girlfriends, and it really appeared to be healthy eating. But, you know, I was obsessed with like drinking excessive water because I thought it made you lose weight. And I even had like another girlfriend in middle school, like 7th or 8th grade, that she was doing this with me. We would bring like 9 water bottles to school and put them in our lockers. Like,
just excessive
shit. And, you know, I think, and then I got into a little bit of binging and purging, but that was really not pleasant because, you know, you do so much restricting and then you're like, I want some fucking pizza.
Oh, purge, you mean like throwing up?
Throwing up, okay. Yeah. That wasn't like a huge thing for me. It was more like the restrictive eating and just, you know.
I'm sorry, now this is for me. What do you mean restrictive eating?
Like, I'm only going to have 800 calories today.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to have 4 carrots for lunch, and really obsessing about the amount that you put into your body.
And you're talking about 8th, 9th grade stuff?
Like, yeah, because I looked like I was 16 when I was 11.
Okay, so you went through puberty young.
Yeah,
Okay.
And that really messed some things up because, like, I wasn't really into stuff that my peers were into. I wanted to be like a woman.
Right, I get it. Okay, so that also plays into
like
this
it
life
threw
too.
a lot off, and so, you know, I was just very consumed with this eating disorder in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and so I was also starting to smoke cigarettes, like, you know.
Well, yeah, you lose weight when you smoke.
Well, and you know, some of the other kids, their parents smoked, and so we would try smoking, and so there was that, and I remember I was taking another, you know, part of eating disorder behavior is sometimes you can binge and then take like a whole box of laxatives. Instead of throwing up, it'll just go up the other way.
Yeah.
And you know, that and diuretics, which make you pee out water weight. So those.
Jeez, and this is how old? Like, you're young?
8th grade.
Okay.
8th, yeah. And, you know, there was another girl that was doing this too. And so we would like, hey, what did you do today? What did you eat? Do you have any, you know?
Right, your partner in crime type of deal.
Kind of, yeah. And so I remember I had like a whole bunch of laxatives and like Ho-Hos and Twinkies and all this junk food. And then there was a pack of cigarettes in my school bag. And I remember my mom called me downstairs, and her and my dad are standing in my room, and they are holding this pack of cigarettes. What is this? And I was like, you know, just terrified of my parents. Like, you know, not that they ever did anything bad, but like, you just, sometimes your parents can give you a look and you're like, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
And so they, you know, they're looking at the cigarettes, and I'm like, I thought to myself, well, shit, I don't want to be in trouble for smoking. I better tell them about the laxatives and junk food, because that's really the problem, and maybe they'll let me smoke.
That was the mindset, though. That was the
mindset. I don't want to get in trouble for this smoking, because that's really bad. So I'm going to tell them about this. You know, and they knew there was some really bizarre behavior going on, like, because we'd all go out to dinner for family dinner, and I would bring my own food.
Really?
Like I would boil chicken and green beans, and that's all I would eat for lunch and dinner, and I would bring that to school. And so going out to eat, that became a problem because I wasn't going to eat what they ate.
Wow, okay.
You know, and so I feel like my parents, for as messed up as it sounds, that really is near not anything compared to like what it's like for some people. And I feel like they got me the help that I needed right away.
Right.
And so I went to the eating disorders place.
Is that like the Emily Project, or
it was called something else, but it's the same
thing?
Same
Okay.
location and everything.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was through Methodist Hospital, and
Okay.
yeah, and so I did that, and I did the outpatient program, which was like 3 days a week, one family night, and then got some counseling and a psychiatrist. So yeah, that was, that was like that was kind of like a big, oh my gosh, there's stuff going on, but they didn't know about the drinking, and they were so concerned about the eating disorder behavior that the smoking was just like,
So you were kind of right when you're like, look, sorry about the cig.
Well, and maybe I was tired too. Like maybe I was, part of me was probably like, this is a full-time job keeping up with all this food behavior. Like I'm not paying attention in school. I'm obsessed with how I look, and just feeling like uncomfortable in your own body.
You knew this was a problem, even at that age for yourself. You kind of knew.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would go to like sleepovers with girlfriends and stuff, and I would be so angry that they could all sit there and eat pizza and all this fucking junk food and be like these little toothpicks, and that wasn't me. And so I started getting more isolated, and So anyway, I just jumped forward. I ended up deciding I was too cool for school, and school was always kind of hard for me. Like I never could pay attention. Like I was always getting in trouble for talking too much. But I had always wanted to be a nurse since I was old enough to know what a job was.
So how old or what grade were you too cool for school?
Hold on, I'm getting there. So
okay.
I had always wanted to be a nurse, and only a nurse that took care of babies, right?
Okay.
No other kind of nurse, and I never changed my mind once about what I wanted to do. And I got a job and started working, and my mom always made us save half of our money, even our allowance for college or whatever you need, because you're not living here forever, right? And, by the time I was 18, I had saved like $17,000, because instead of hanging out with friends and working and partying, I was working.
Right.
And then I was hanging out with people that were older, like 18, 19, which that felt more comfortable to me.
Right. And your mom or your parents and just instilled, like that was it hard? I know I'm going on a side note, but the money thing, that blows me away. At that age, you were
age 6, you get $4 for your allowance. 2 of it's going in an envelope.
So by the time you're 14, you make $10, you set aside five aside. It's not even a big deal. That's what it is.
Of course, there's times I didn't like it, or I maybe made 20 and only said I made 10, because that's what we do. But, looking back, I do that with my own kids because it's a good lesson.
No, it's awesome. That's why I went off on that topic.
Of course, I was resentful. Like, this is my money. What am I going to need it later for?
Right. But then you get to that age and you have almost 20 rips, and that was all from just saved half of your
I started
income.
bagging groceries at the grocery store when I was 14. But, here's this is some other, like...
I want it all, girl. Come on.
Yeah, so, cigarettes were kind of expensive, and it was kind of a hassle for us to get them because we didn't have IDs, right?
Right.
So I worked at this grocery store, and it's kind of like a Lund's where you put groceries in a bin and then you ship them outside and people drive up. Yeah. So that was my job. Well, the cartons of cigarettes happened to be right by where you ship the tubs out.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, okay, so you guys are going to come through, and basically I'd be sending these tubs out and grabbing like 3 cartons of cigarettes. Well, I'd bring them to school and sell them for like $8 a pack.
Hell yeah. And that's back when cigs were what, $5 a pack?
A carton was 20.
Yeah, okay. So $2 a pack.
So yeah, I was hustling.
All right.
So, little things like that. It was smoking weed at this grocery store with people, not getting into trouble or anything like that, but just, it felt a little cooler to be high.
Right.
And so, yeah. So anyway, I, of course, as I'm doing some of this stuff, like I'm not really identifying with my peers, and I'm not showing up that great in life. And so I kind of like was always friends with this like big group of people, but my behaviors were not that fun to be around,
Okay.
And so I ended up leaving and going to an alternative school, which
Like a West Metro or like
it was called Highview.
Yep.
And, and a lot of kids had been expelled or the girls were pregnant.
The naughty school.
It was, and
Yeah.
they were kind of like, I'm like, because it was work at your own pace, and I was like, fuck school, I'm done with this. I got money to go to college. I'm gonna get done what I need to done and go be a nurse. The whole goal was to get into college, to go into the nursing program.
So you're still adamant about this through all of what you've been going
Never
through.
changed my mind once.
And like you get popped over to the alternative school.
Yeah,
Did you just get a GED
no,
or did you graduate earlier?
So the curriculum was a lot easier than regular high school.
That's what I understood.
So I actually graduated a year early. I was supposed to graduate in 97. I graduated in 96.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
I'm a 97, 98 graduate.
Oh, yeah. Well, you should have.
Went to alternative.
Well, let me tell you. So I go to.
They used to have Nintendo in the one by my house. The kids got to go and play Nintendo for the naughty kids. I was like, bullshit. But okay, yeah.
Year after.
Mm-hmm.
So after I graduated, I started taking classes at like North Hennepin Community College, and I took like some,
Harvard.
basic medical classes at Hennepin Tech, so I could get a little taste of some schooling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I quickly discovered that I did not get the math education that I needed at the alternative school, and one of the classes that I had to take in order to apply for nursing was a basic math class.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't pass the placement test to take the college level algebra, so I had to take like math 90, right? Okay, so I take it, I pay $500 for it. I go every day for the trimester. I fail it miserably. I take it the second semester, fail it again. The third semester, I have a math tutor who used to babysit me when I was a kid, and I'm working with her, still couldn't pass that class. So then I just got smart, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to let this deter me. So I figured out how to pass that placement test and test out of math, which I did.
Wow.
So
like you... Okay.
A little easier, softer way around here.
Easier, softer way.
Then I had to take a really hard chemistry class, and luckily I was working in a hospital at the time, and one of the nurses was really good at chemistry, and she tutored me through it, and I passed with a C-, but that was all I needed.
That's it, just to pass.
Yep.
So quickly, algebra, was it just you just never got it?
I couldn't pay attention. They went too fast.
Algebra was
it's when they put the letters in.
I'm not going to lie, I never...
Yeah, this is an English class.
Yeah, PEMDAS, I could kill it. But
that?
I think it was PEMDAS. Like multiply, divide, add, subtract. Not PEMDAS. Geez, what am I
Numbers are just not my thing.
Like that, I can do, like basic math. But the algebra stuff, I never picked that up.
Well, and it's like, if you throw me some apples, then I can maybe try to see where I would apply this, but I don't understand.
You never got short on a bag of weed without being able to figure out the money.
Absolutely not.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's application.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, now we're having people help us with chemistry, and you pass it with C-.
So, I'm going to this community college. I'm still living at home, and I'm really removed from any type of, like, social networking. Kind of getting into boys a little bit, but I was kind of like a loner, sort of.
Okay.
So I end up meeting this guy from Perkins, and he was a friend of a friend. We end up dating. I think I'm falling in love, whatever. And he was 21 and I was 19, and he could drink, and so I started heavily drinking, and that got in the way of going to school. Like, I couldn't even go to my step aerobics class on Friday to get my 2 credits.
Oh, partying was way more.
Yeah, but it didn't do anything where I thought it was affecting my life. Like, I just missed that final that day. That's why I didn't get credit for it. But I was also like, well, I should back up. So I would have pretty significant depression, like starting at the age of 14. I mean, like, I would come home from school and I could easily sleep from the time school was over until the next day, and just would really shut the world off and go to sleep. My mom would come down and wake me up for dinner, like, you need to get up, let's go for a walk.
You think that was like just depression, or?
It was. The eating disorder place, I must have been like 14 or 15. They put me on Prozac.
Okay.
I don't really remember how long I was on it, but so that was the depression was a real constant battle, but it was pretty much untreated. And then drinking heavily, and I'm almost like thinking that I need this person and I really loved him, but really he was kind of a dick. And
this was the first.
This was like my first kind of boyfriend.
Your first love.
Well,
at the time, your first love. You see the quotes, right?
Yeah.
You can see me clear as day with this light beaming on me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I can't see you for nothing.
Oh.
But that's okay. I don't need to. All right. Whoa, there you. I've been staring over here.
Oh.
You're probably like, what's he looking at? All right. So, and this is like an audio show, so no, behind that, otherwise it's my eyes. All right. So this guy, you're thinking like you need.
It was love forever. We were gonna get married and have a family someday, right?
Yep.
Because that's what everybody in my family did. They made smart choices. They went to school. They got married and had kids, and that's exactly what I wanted.
Okay.
But I wanted to be a nurse.
Still wanted to be.
Oh yeah, never deviated. So anyway, I'm like, well, maybe I'll just take like a year off. But obviously, I was not. I was being a very dependent, clingy person. Like, I didn't have any other friends. Like, my life was getting really focused around this one person.
Okay. Side note, did you, I should have asked this earlier. Growing up, did you go to church?
Yes.
Okay. No,
I got kicked out of Sunday school. Like, I was
good.
naughty.
I'm going to be asking later about this, but I just was curious. Okay, so yep, you're thinking this guy, you put this guy up here on a pedestal and you revolve around him.
I did, and so school kind of fell aside. I was working at the restaurant or whatever, still smoking weed and drinking, but I just thought that I was, 19. That's what people do.
That's what you do, yeah.
So I ended up not going to school, and, I wasn't really doing anything with my life, and, this was turning into like kind of a it's a very unhealthy relationship, especially when there's drinking involved. And so, that ended, and I was really depressed at the time, and I remember I had just started taking antidepressant, like Lexapro. I'd been on it for like 3 or 4 weeks, and I thought I lost the love of my life, and I was living.
You guys split up?
Yeah,
and that did a number on you?
It was like toxic. We were broken up for the week.
Okay.
Right, and yeah, and so I ended up drinking a bottle of like Bacardi Limon, and I'm home alone.
It's Limon.
No, it's Limon.
Okay, I don't know. I never drank it.
It's a bottle of shit.
Yeah.
It smells awful.
Yeah.
So I drank like half of it and just decided I didn't really want to be here anymore. But it's not like something that I planned, but it was very impulsive. I was just hurting,
Yeah.
And so I'm drunk. I take like a whole bottle of Tylenol. My roommate comes home, calls one of my girlfriends, because there was like, I made a mess everywhere, and I'm like passed out. And anyway, so they called an ambulance, and I had to get my stomach pumped, and my mom was on a vacation. My poor dad had to come down to Abbott Northwestern, at 1 o'clock in the morning, thinking, like no thought process behind any of this.
Well, and you're drunk as a skunk. So.
Yeah. And then, I get my stomach pumped full of charcoal.
Yep.
And then I'm put in a room, and they're not letting me go home. I'm like, I'm fine. Like, this was just an accident. You get a sitter in your room, and you're on a 72-hour hold.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was like, wow, that was pretty messed up.
You're 19?
Yeah, I was 19. Yeah. And it was in March, and March has always been a horrible month for depression for me, but that really caught me by surprise. And I later learned that when they say that a risk of suicide, when they list the side effects of antidepressants, a lot of people think that the antidepressant itself causes you thoughts of killing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned that when people are so depressed and they start taking an antidepressant, it's because 3 weeks later, when they actually start to work, people get the energy or motivation to do it.
Wow. I never knew that.
I didn't either. And
that's shocking.
I learned that from a teacher in nursing school, and there may be some very different theories on that now.
No, you wording it as such makes sense.
It made.
I mean,
I fully believe that would
yeah,
happen to me. Yeah.
You're so down in the dumps, no energy, just isolating, sleeping, no energy to do shit. All of a sudden, you get these, you're getting a taste of this,
and like,
but that
I don't
dark
like
is
my life. Yeah.
right. Yeah, that dark's still there, but now I've got the inertia to go do it. That's scary. I just put up the hotline, so just remember, you're not alone. Reach out if you are struggling or dealing with anything she's talking about. Please reach out. But okay, so then.
So they get me, I see a psychiatrist, and, of course, you know how mental health goes. Somebody has like some sort of catastrophic event, and you can see a psychiatrist in 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, yes.
I think I overslept and missed the first appointment. And like my parents, I moved back home. They were super worried. Anyway, I take a break from school, and I end up deciding to get a job at a hospital as it's called a health unit coordinator, or they call them HUCs.
Yeah.
And so
a hook. Yeah.
So I started working at Methodist Hospital in 2000. I started volunteering at Children's Hospital, just like one night a week. And then after
the one over South Minneapolis?
Yep. And then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to bother with this math class business. I'm going to take one class in the evening that I won't oversleep for and try to at least accomplish that. So I started with like a sociology, a psychology, like shit that I knew that I could probably achieve.
Right.
And so I started doing that. Well, this is like in 2000, I went to visit a friend that I had grown up with. We were really close growing up, and she had moved to Georgia. Her family moved when we were like going into 6th grade, and so, but our families always stayed in touch, and we would go down and visit them. And so she was going to the University of Georgia and going to college there, and I'm just working at this hospital, taking a community college class, and I went down there to visit, and it was like this whole social experience that I hadn't had since 9th grade. And I wanted that. Like, these were people my own age. Right. And like, I just, I had, all of a sudden I had like an instant pack of girlfriends.
Very intriguing.
And so I came home and I was like, why can't I live there? I go to school down there. Why can't I do what I'm doing here down there? Because, anybody that I had known, they'd gone off to college.
Right.
And so anyway, long story short, I ended up moving down there.
Atlanta?
It's Athens, Georgia.
To Georgia.
Yeah. It's Athens. It's like a small college town.
Okay.
Yeah, like the B-52s are from there.
Of course.
Michael Stipe from REM.
Yeah.
Kenny Rogers.
KR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I pick up my life and move across the country.
All right. At the age of 19 still?
19, almost. It was like August. 19
Damn, you remember 20. Dates like that?
It was because I was gone 1 year to the day.
All right. 1 year to the day.
1 year to the day.
So you go down
there. My parents were like super worried, like, hey, if something happens, we're a long ways away. But I'm like, I need to live my life. And so, I did it. And I'm glad that I did. I did it the right way. I had a job lined up.
It's an experience.
My friend found me a roommate. Well,
so did you went down there to just work, or were you going to go to school?
I got a job at a hospital like I was doing at Methodist, and I was planning on just going to a community college there.
Okay.
I didn't really feel like I was university material.
Okay.
So anyway, I moved to Georgia. I was not anticipating that there was going to be more drugs than marijuana and alcohol.
Okay.
And I also was like, hey, nobody's watching me. I don't have to come home to anyone. I don't have anybody here that knows me that could be concerned.
Right.
And it started off really harmless. Like the first couple months, it's really funny. I have this photo album from the year that I was there, and the pictures from the first month that I was there to the pictures at the end. Oh my God, the pictures at the end, I got a rolled up dollar bill in my hand, snorting lines. And like, I did cocaine like once or twice. And then I thought, well, that was kind of cool. I wonder if I'll ever see that again. Like, I don't know where to get that. But then I kind of made sure that I went somewhere where I would see some of those same people that were at that last place. And like, And pretty soon it wasn't Friday and Saturday I'm doing that. It's
Right.
every day. Then
Right.
it turns into an 8-ball every day. And then it turns into you go out to the bars with your friends and you're just in the bathroom doing lines.
Right. Like that's all everything's
yeah.
revolving around.
And then you're, peeking out your shades like, oh God, the lights are coming out,
Yeah.
and I've been awake for a day and a half.
Yeah.
Yucky feeling.
Very ugly feeling.
Yep, calling in sick to work, like, my prayer, and I kept saying I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna get this application, and I think I was
back burnering it.
Yeah, because I was busy.
Yes.
And then I had this really nice car that got totaled because I let somebody drive me home from the bar. Because I ate ecstasy, and he said he was okay to drive, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Car gets totaled, and I end up getting a check for like $10,000.
While down there still?
Yeah, because my car got totaled out. And so I got a big lump sum of money. I was maxing out my credit cards. And I was working full time, but I worked 3 to 11, so it was like party time.
Yeah, perfect.
The bars were open till 2, and the parties didn't stop till 6 a.m.
And then you could get at least 2-3 hours of pretend to sleep.
Yep.
Go to work again. Yep.
Yep. And then the weekends would just be like, partying even harder. But like, we weren't these were like party kids, but I just was partying like hours after they would leave.
Kind of like the same deal when you're 14 and you thought everyone was party, but you were really getting it in. Yeah.
Or like, well, we can't run out of any drugs. It's like, it's only 3 a.m. Like, we got to get, like, it was never going to run out of drugs, right?
Right.
And then can't focus on when you're going to do it again.
Right, yeah.
And so
10 grand doesn't last long when you're living that type of life.
So anyway, I was getting kind of scared because the way that I was using, like, I was pretty much using alone. And I was hanging out with some people that I knew weren't good people. And I hardly saw my childhood friend at all because, I came down there and all of a sudden I started like, woo, let's party, and that was probably hard for her. But anyway, so I checked myself into an outpatient treatment program there. And because I voluntarily went in, told them what I was using, whatever, and I didn't have any like court reasons or nothing. They were like, they put me in outpatient, 3 days a week, 7 hours a day, 6 hours a day. Well, I have to go home. I'm not working. And then, some people asked me to go out and like, okay, they don't do cocaine. It'll be fine. Well, I drank.
Couple cocktails in, I got to get some ribs.
I drank because I go to treatment the next day and they're passing a breathalyzer around. And I'm like, what's this for? And they're like, well, they just breathalyze everybody. I'm like, even if you're not have a problem with alcohol. I thought because I was there for cocaine, that I could literally drink, and I was baffled by that.
I get it though.
So,
how would you have known? Like, you went in there because, hey, I got a cocaine problem. I need help. No, I'm good with booze. You didn't have that solution
sick like
yet.
These heroin people.
Right.
I just needed to like get things in order.
Just needed to figure out how to use it correctly.
Yeah, right.
But seriously, at that age, I mean, you didn't have a solution yet?
I knew that I was heading downhill fast, and I was starting to run out of money. I was probably going to lose my job. Like, my parents had come down to see me, and like when I would talk to my mom, they knew something wasn't right, but they couldn't pinpoint it. And and just I still have this photo album because it's just really amazing, the transformation in the type of clothes I was wearing, my hair, and the people I was hanging out with. And it's like, you go downhill fast, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I end up, one day they let me slide with the drinking because they're like, okay, I guess she didn't get it. But, I kept going and I did what they said, but the problem was when I left and on the weekends, there was no structure, nothing, no family. And so, I think I ended up using, and I just walked into treatment the next day. I'm like, I've been up all night doing cocaine. I am not going to pass that test today. I need more help. I told them I needed more help.
Right.
And this was like my third time relapsing. And they said, well, we really think that you want to get help, and we don't think this is the right place for you. And so your mom's actually on our plane down here to get you, to bring you home.
Oh, did they reach out to her?
I have no idea. This was probably before releases of information, but I don't remember signing one. But
HIPAA wasn't happening there.
Yeah, like that. Well, never mind. I'm not gonna say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
You're about to say like that shit matters.
I mean, it does matter, but like, doesn't matter to me because I'm sitting here on a podcast telling my,
Right.
my ugly side. But not everybody does that. But so,
I get it. I do. I understand.
yeah. So anyway, I'm like, oh, my mom's coming, and my first thought was, well, I better go do some dope before she gets here
Right.
because this is going to be my last hurrah.
Yeah.
I got to go say goodbye to all these people. What am I going to do with my stuff?
Your farewell party.
Yeah. So my mom was there like 6 hours later. I guess that was some plan in the making before I even relapsed the third time.
Mm.
And so anyway, it was kind of a relief. And
Yeah.
she's there. We pack up my shit, get a U-Haul, bring it down to my childhood friend's mom's house, put my shit away. My mom and I get on a plane. They send me to Hazleton in Plymouth.
The Plymouth location where you were at
when
when you're
the field trip.
So you're talking to new high school kids. Okay, so yeah.
So I was 20. I was 21 when I got there, and I was one of the oldest people in there. There was me and this other kid that was 24, and they were all like 14, 15, 16-year-old kids from all over the world. So again, I met this like weird, okay, I don't know how to relate to these people. They're like 14 years old. And
Right.
anyway, I got what I needed out of it. I didn't have insurance. I think my parents paid out of pocket for it. So I did the Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and rode my bike down to treatment because I lived up the street from there. And, they just wanted to get me the best help they could get. And I mean, and so, my dad was like a drywall sheetrocker his whole life, hanging sheetrock and taping. And he'd get home from work, and I had gone to the Uptown AA meeting in St. Paul, and there was like young people there. He would drive me all the way from Plymouth to St. Paul to go to this meeting house and sit in the car every night.
While you were at the meeting, he was at the meeting.
He was just out in the car.
Right.
But it didn't, they dropped whatever they needed to do, and because that's what, they thought was going to help me, and it was what helped me, but they just kept bringing me. And so, I finally, I get into the rooms of AA, and I'm listening to these like old 60-year-old dudes talk, and I'm like, this is like, they're saying what they're talking like how I think.
Yeah.
I have nothing in common with these people, but I have something really big in common. And I felt like at home, and I felt like I could breathe and like I could be myself. And so I got really into that. And, my parents kept pretty close tabs on me, and I was always deathly afraid of like, I didn't want to it was easy to
Piss them off or disappoint them.
Disappoint them, but it was easy to do all that messed up stuff when I was living in another state because they couldn't see me. Like now I gotta show up. I gotta like keep my room clean. I have to I can't just go out and live like this reckless animal doing whatever I want. And so anyway, I start working at Children's, and I started as a health unit coordinator, and started going back to school. Hawk.
So, and then you went back to school. Now at this time, what are you, 21?
Yeah.
Okay.
21, going to Normandale, took some classes at North Hennepin, I passed my placement test, and I'm going to meetings. I got a sponsor. I had some friends that were in recovery, but I still didn't have this like core group of like childhood friends anymore. And I think that was like a big loss for me because I just felt out of place sort of. And the only time I felt part of something was when I went into these meetings. And so just meetings were my life. And I kind of wanted to date, but I knew I couldn't date somebody 22 years old that drank. I just knew I couldn't. Right. And I listened to what those old timers would say. Well, you go back out and you're going to pick up where you left off and it's going to be worse. I'm like, well, that seems weird, but I guess I'm just going to listen. And so, anyway, I get set up on a blind date with somebody who was sober from a coworker. It was her brother-in-law. We dated. One thing leads to another. We move in together. We get a dog together. We have 2 children together. We get married. I finally get into a nursing program, and when I get into this nursing program, I find out that I'm pregnant. which was a surprise.
So when you get into the nursing
So
program,
I had to wait because there was like 800 applicants and only 100 spots at all of the community colleges, because I guess it was pretty hip to be a nurse then. But so we had to camp out on Hennepin Avenue all the way into Loring Park the night before they released the applications, because it was first come first serve.
oh no shit.
So me and a girlfriend, we camped out there, and I was like, just found out I was pregnant, and then I get my letter saying I'm accepted, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been waiting my whole life.
With your first child?
My first child, okay. I was on birth control. Like, this was
a miracle baby.
It was, I couldn't wait to have kids someday. I couldn't wait.
Right.
And I just, of course, I didn't think it was going to be like that. I was stressed out and sad, and I thought I was, because it's like, I'm not done with school yet. How am I,
Your life, you didn't have that planned yet. That wasn't
No, it was supposed to come later.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I start nursing school, and by the time I was able to start my program, my daughter was 6 months old.
Okay.
Things going good. Oh, let me just add this other tidbit in. When I went to Hazelton's treatment, when I was in Athens, Georgia, I saw a dog on the street, and I was in love. And I'd never heard of a dog like this or seen one, and it was an English Mastiff.
Oh, yeah, real small.
Yeah. And I was like...
Aren't they like 100, and they can be up to 200 pounds?
Oh, yeah, hold on.
Okay, all right, okay.
So, anyway, I'm in Hazelton, and I start a coffee can and decorate the outside of it, and that was my dog savings account. When I had my life together and my shit together, I'm getting one of these dogs. It was either going to be that or a German Shepherd or one of those. I like big dogs. So it's 2004. I find a Mastiff breeder. I'm on a waiting list for like 10 months. We had to put a deposit down before the dogs were even bred. Anyway, I get Edward George. He's the love of my life. I have like a baby scrapbook that I did.
Edward George.
That was his name, big strong name. And I was trying to like figure out some hobbies, like what do I like to do, you know?
Yeah.
So I got into showing the dog. So I ended up meeting other people that had these kind of dogs, and ended up making some really good friends through that. And I realized dog shows they're a bunch of bullshit, but it was something to like. I took him to the classes, and but that dog came everywhere with me. He came to Home Depot, he came to coffee shops, and he was 236 pounds.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
he was a show dog.
He was like the first couple years, and then I was like, it was just you're paying entry fees and hotel fees, and it wasn't fun anymore.
Right, became a job.
Yeah, it wasn't. It just wasn't fun anymore. So
230 pounds, and he slept in bed with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
He thought he was a lap dog, but he was wonderful. Anyway, that was like, he was like a gift to myself, and my partner was, excited about it was like our baby, right? And, anyway, so the dog was like I think it was like a 3-year sobriety present to myself.
Okay.
And we got them together. So we have this dog, and, let's see, where was I going with that? Anyway, so we got a baby, and wasn't married yet, and finishing up nursing school. And on my daughter's like first birthday party, I wasn't feeling well and realized I was pregnant again. And if I would have taken a break off of nursing school, I would have had to have waited a whole entire year to pick back up, and I wouldn't be with the rest of my classmates that I started with. So, I went back to school 8 days after having my second baby.
Ooh. So
I had a 17-month-old and a newborn, and my mom took like one. You can't bring a baby to daycare when it's 8 days old. So they let me double up on some of my schooling like before he was born, and so I did get to take like a little bit of time off.
They worked with you
a little bit.
Okay.
I had to go and take a test on the 8th day, and I still had to go do the hospital clinicals right after having a baby, but I made it work, and I stuck with it, and I ended up graduating. So I finally get into the school that I wanted to do my whole life, and I start it with a baby, and then have another baby and get married in the middle of that.
Busy. Okay.
Do shit the hard way.
Yeah, earlier it was easier softer way, but now okay.
Yeah, now we're like, okay.
And you're clean throughout this.
Clean, going to meetings, still have a sponsor. Like no thoughts of using. alcohol really was not my jam, but it was definitely, that's something that was going to work.
Right. What was a Falcon? Is that the school, your mamata or your what?
Armstrong Falcons.
Oh, okay. One of our listeners said both me and Jen were Falcons. So
yeah.
One of our listeners.
Who's that?
John B. He's been on the show a few times. He's one of these old timers that were probably in some of those meetings you went to.
John B.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm curious.
He's an amazing man, and I love him.
I wonder if we smoked pot together in high school.
Nah, he may have been a little older than you, I think. Not much though, just a little older.
All right. Well,
I'm giving him a lot of credit.
I was an Armstrong Falcon for 3 years.
I think my dad was too.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So I'm graduated from school. I have this dream job. I'm a nurse taking care of babies, right?
Right. You got your job.
I got my job. I got my.
You have arrived.
My big fancy house in the suburbs that I always wanted, out in the Maple Grove. Got this because I need to have this.
Of course.
Even though I didn't grow up that way, but I'm like, well, I want this 4,000 square foot home, and thinking I made it big. And so anyway, I'm working, taking care of babies. I got my nursing license in 2007, and life's going good. But then life also continues to show up, and I was working 12-hour night shifts. I had 2 toddlers, and it had been 8 or 9 years since I drank. That certainly was not a priority anymore.
Right.
And we moved from Minneapolis. I was busy with work and kids, and so I did not have a home group anymore. My sponsor got married and moved, and I just never got around to finding a new one. And everyone around me knew I always told people I'm an alcoholic.
Right.
So as a way, everyone knows that I can't drink, but and I had gone to some counseling, so I didn't think that I was avoiding it, but I also didn't think that it was ever going to come back.
You know what? I always say on a side note, a decade. Yes, John. So, matter of fact, this John, at my men's meeting, it's a home group. He's adamantly always said this too. Is where I think you're about to be going with your story is you usually don't hear someone with multiple years say, I just had too many sponsors. I was meeting with my sponsor too much. I was going to my home group every week, and I relapsed. Usually don't hear it that way. You hear it the way you're kind of gearing up. It sounds like.
Let me back up a little bit. I was not going to meetings or
period.
Had a sponsor that dropped off around year 10.
Okay, so 10 years in, you start filing. Okay, keep going because yes, I don't even know why I interrupted with that, but we both know. But some listeners or some people in early recovery, it blows my mind. We have a guy named Armin who had 20-some years, and now he's got 2 or 3 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the first to tell you, I slowly just started
living life a normal person.
Living life thinking, okay, I've graduated. He doesn't say, oh, I graduated.
I didn't think I was cured. I still identified as being an alcoholic, but I never thought I would drink again.
Keep on going. Let's hear it. Come on.
So,
And you're the baby's father. He worked. You guys both had good jobs.
Yep. He's been sober since he was 19.
Okay.
He is a few years older than me. Yeah, he worked. We had just this stable family life, but of course, I'm not feeding the beast with meetings anymore. Pretty soon,
mm-hmm.
My parents and my relatives, they sure didn't make having kids and being married and having a house, they didn't make that look hard. And nobody told me that this shit was really hard and really stressful. And at the end of the day, it's not about me.
But you have 2 kids, but here's the thing I want to ask is you're saying this about, do you think if you would have still been involved, still going to meetings throughout this, made the time?
Absolutely, I never would have relapsed.
And it wouldn't have been as hard as you're seeing it as it turned into be. That's a goofy question.
No, if I had a sponsor, I had a home group, I had people that were in recovery that are going to be hey.
Hold you accountable.
Oh, yeah, because my family,
they're not.
How would they know?
And it's not for them to have to, really.
Yeah, it's not. But I've got some friends now that'll be hey, you think that's a good idea? Because I don't.
Right. I on a side for anyone, we went to World Street Kitchen, I don't know, almost 2 months ago. Her, I think Darren and Brandon. And the way like they bantered, like, but they weren't co-signing none of your shit.
Nope.
And like they're both quick. If you didn't know him, you're like, wow, dude's an asshole to her. But it's not that. It's straight love. And you guys were holding each other, all three of you, accountable, but that's what we need. People like us.
Yeah,
because we're quick to co-sign our own shit quicker than anyone. And if we're not held to it, we'll find people to surround us who will co-sign our shit. Sure. Especially if you're not linked into this life of recovery. But keep her coming. Come on.
So yeah, I'll just say Darren and Brandon. Those are my two older brothers that
I got to get them on the show. Both
that I never had. And I'm super grateful for the friendships that I have with them. So anyway, yeah, recovery was just like a back burner thing.
Right. You're living life.
If I have a babysitter, maybe I'll go to like Saturday Night Live, but like, yeah.
You weren't involved anymore.
I was not involved, but I was sober.
Right.
So having some marital issues, going to counseling, I'm working nights. I off and on for the most part was seeing a therapist. And it was always forthcoming about, struggles that I had. And anyway, she thought that I displayed signs of ADHD, which I definitely have and have.
I was going to ask that when you were talking about school, when you were like, I wasn't concentrating, I'd be always talking. Like they threw me on Ritalin for them same things.
What addict doesn't have ADHD?
I just, you know what? That was the first taste of mood altering shit in my life.
I was tested for it when I was younger. I don't remember the outcome. I was never put on meds.
See, they did that with me. See, we're same age now that I'm realizing when you were supposed to graduate. This was the beginning back when they came up with Ritalin. And it was a 4-week deal. They put me on a placebo, 5 milligram, 10 milligram, 20. I didn't know, but my teachers would feed back. They ended up putting me on the highest dose. Like that shut them up.
Well, it does work for some kids.
I ended up getting in trouble for selling them.
Well,
first I was using the drugs, then I was selling. It was a full circle of me with that, with no recovery in my life at that age. But I didn't. They zombied me. Like most people take them to get all high and speedy. But to make up with me, I take them and I get all zombied up.
You just gotta channel that ADHD into something.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Like Stewie Griffin type shit.
Yeah.
But you guys.
Anyway, I go get a
therapist. I have a question about that though. Is you're in there sharing with the therapist? Are you just sharing about Because I've never been to therapy. Is that you go in there and just tell them all my daily problems and sit on the couch and this sucks, that sucks? Well, do they give you a solution or
so the first few times you meet with them, you start off giving how your childhood was, give a little bit of life story, and then they just have these ways of asking you questions. Well, how do you feel about that? What is something that you would like to see yourself doing in 5 years? How do you think you would obtain that? And then of course there'd be issues, I was having some arguments that I didn't really know how to process. So I also never really dated. I did not have any healthy dating relationships until I met this person, and I waited the 1 year to be sober before I started dating. Right. And and he's a wonderful person. He still is. But it's just I think that after so many years and 2 kids and life showing up, that I maybe was starting to things were changing. And so I was talking about that with the therapist. Anyway, she mentions ADHD, and I'm working nights, and I'm well, yeah, I think that I got that. I for sure do.
Yep, go ahead.
So I go get this whole ADHD eval done. Well, we're gonna give you some Adderall, and I'm wait, whoa.
Yeah.
I am a cocaine addict. I go hard on drugs.
And you were 100% open with these people.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay. I tell them I've been to treatment when I was 21 for cocaine. I was a very, very, very heavy cocaine user. When I start partying, I go hard. I don't drink. My sobriety, still my sobriety is really important to me.
Right.
Well, because I told them that and they still gave it to me, I was well, they think I need this.
Right.
And honestly, it helped.
But
it
you know what?
everything.
Maybe if you, because I don't want to spoil anything, because I do remember what you shared. That's when I was all excited. Oh, I remember. Without spoiler, if because I think the audience and anyone listening knows where this is about to go. But if you would have listened to the dosage that they told you and you would have stuck with it, with doctor prescribed method, do you think it would have worked for you?
Say that again.
I know I make my question so long. As a host, I should be way better. If you would have stuck to the prescribed dosage to what they're, you know what, I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah, I can't answer that because it rapidly changed.
Because you said like it was working, right?
Yeah, I didn't have this chronic fatigue all the time. I was getting more done at home. I was losing some weight. I wasn't hungry, but like I certainly did not feel high, not one bit.
Right, and I shit the bed by even jumping. So you know what? Keep going, because I'm putting our last podcast in my mind. You finish. Keep going about. So they put you on Adderall, and yes.
You want me to finish?
I'm sorry. I'm getting all excited because now I remember the story.
Yeah.
So they put you on Adderall.
Yeah,
yes.
And I took it as prescribed.
Okay.
For I don't know, maybe like a year and a half.
And still sober. No alcohol.
No, and I was not abusing it. I was taking it as prescribed, and it was fine. And then I had this other issue too, where like I never felt rested, even because I was starting to build up a tolerance to this, and I was starting to feel the same way that I felt since I was 14 years old, which is just this like starting your day with a weighted blanket, and like. You know how you feel after you have a big meal and you want to just lay down and take a nap?
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Yeah. That's how I felt all day long, every single day.
That's what it turned into even.
No, that's how I always felt when I was 14. Like, that's why cocaine was such a was such a life changer for me. And, then I'm working 12-hour nights. And then the days that I don't work, I'm getting up with kids, flipping my sleep back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
It's taken a toll after several years.
Yeah.
And then, decide to get separated, decide to get a divorce, and, thinking that I was making like a smart, logical choice for my future and for my happiness. Wasn't going to any meetings, but had this therapist. And anyway, we separate. I moved back in with my parents. He, we sell the house. We do 50-50 custody. The divorce took a really long time, and I financially was not really prepared to, because of course I was spending and buying shit, and I wasn't thinking, I really have to pay for rent.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah.
And so moving with my parents, my kids have their own room there. It was just going to be like kind of a stepping stone. Well, the divorce ended up taking like a year and a half. Like nothing was final. I didn't know what I had to work with.
Right.
Anyway, I just got Match.com.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, like, I don't feel like a mom. I feel like a desirable woman. And all these pieces that I missed when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I'm also taking Adderall. I also have a big gaps of time where I don't have my kids and I'm not at work. And, I didn't really have healthy coping skills.
Like no accountability for certain periods of time.
I mean, I did. Like, I thought, well, I'm going to go on some dates, like I wasn't behaving.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but, I start doing that and it like triggers something. Like, I thought I was going to be remarried and maybe have some more kids. Like, I just thought a couple years down the road, because I always wanted to have a family and a partner and a house. Like, I never really gave up on that idea, but it's true. The grass isn't greener on the other side, but I didn't have the coping skills to recognize unhealthy people. And so I got into some pretty dysfunctional relationships, and, one of them lasted like, 14 months, and the other one was like a year and a half, and very, very toxic, very codependent, and, all of a sudden also taking my Adderall. So now we're both taking Adderall. Okay. Then I saw my psychiatrist, or I can't remember who I saw, and they asked me if I'd ever been tested for a sleep disorder. Because I'm taking 60 milligrams of Adderall a day, and I can sleep for 16 hours, like right after I take it, like nothing is working.
Right.
And anyway, so I had a sleep study done, and they basically, it's like narcolepsy, but they said it's idiopathic hypersomnia.
Okay.
So basically, they hook all these wires up to you and stuff. I don't have sleep apnea, but basically, like, my body doesn't like go into REM sleep, and so I never get rested
Okay.
from sleep. And
benzo, or what do they do?
huh?
How do they even?
So they put me on 120 milligrams of Adderall a day. I got some extended release, and I got some 20 milligram instants, and those go up your nose nice.
Yeah, but quick question about that is, what's the thought process behind upping the dose to make you get into your REM sleep? Or
hold on a sec. So and I'm like, I don't know if this Adderall's not working. I like it.
Were you working them? Like, did you know inside? Were you working them to get more? Or?
Hold on.
Okay. Yeah. Come on. Come on.
So I tell this doctor, hey, I was a pretty hardcore drug addict. I like my cocaine. You want to know what they said? Well, most people develop this disorder at puberty, and you likely were very enticed by cocaine because you were medicating your underlying disorder. Well, that was what was wrong with me.
They justified your cocaine use is what that.
Well, and I guess from a doctor's perspective, everybody with mental health always, they're always masking something.
Right.
But this like clicked, and I really, it was like, this is my medicine. I miss my whole life. That's what all my life has been. Anyway, so they're like, we're gonna, we think that giving you some more and maybe doing extended release. Well, I think that's a great idea. So anyway, I got this boyfriend who's also taking some of my Adderall, and now we're going through my script a little fast, and I didn't tell the neurologist that I had been getting it for ADHD, so I kept a couple of scripts going for quite a while until one day I went to go pick up one of my prescriptions. They're like, yeah, we're not going to be getting this filled anymore. Your providers will not see you. You might be getting a letter in the mail if you're going to be charged with this. But I never stole prescriptions, but I
you were seeking.
Oh, for sure. And, so anyway, so
it all came crashing down.
And, I'll just like touch lightly on this. I was going to work, but I was coming in late. I was calling in sick a lot because this toxic relationship was definitely a priority.
Yeah.
So
when you say codependency, it wasn't just him. It was both codependency.
Oh yeah, and just we would use Adderall, and it just was bad. I mean, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was not the stellar employee that I had been the previous 13 years I had worked there.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a family to me, and you work with the same people for 14 years. Like that was like my family, and there were some things that had happened that I can't go back and undo, and basically like I just took a medical leave basically in lieu of being terminated.
Right. I recall that.
And so, but I left work one day and just was never able to go back. And I didn't get to say goodbye to anyone. Like that happened very, very quickly. I'm sure it appeared very slowly, but like to me, that was like,
right.
Oh, I can't ever go back to my work that I've worked at since I was 21 years old. And I still had not even like put two and two together that I was getting into my addiction, right? Like this was my medicine. They told me I needed this.
You start believing the lie that you were telling yourself.
Well, yeah, because it made sense.
Right. But looking back in knowing,
oh my God, I was so sick.
You were,
so sick.
You turned somewhere just because you weren't drinking alcohol or snorting cocaine.
It was not a relapse for me because I was not drinking or doing cocaine.
I get it, but now we're both where we're at in life. You understand. You can look back and say that was total relapse, or no?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
When you start lying to your doctor saying, yeah, I think I need to, let's increase that and see what happens.
That's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier, but I didn't want to.
No, I think this dose is working. Let's try adding some more. And then, of course.
Yeah. Well, the second you said you were sharing them with someone else.
Well, he was taking them on the side, and I was like, yo, you need to get your own,
these are mine.
Yeah. and so anyway, he goes and gets his, and so anyway, our lives are quickly like going down the tube. He loses his job. I get cut off my Adderall with none left, and I had been taking like 120 milligrams a day for several months.
Is there some dangerous withdrawals that can happen from Adderall?
Well, as an addict, you don't want to go through that.
No, I know, but like if you just stop taking 100 milligrams of benzos, you can seize out.
You would die.
Yeah, or alcohol. You can die.
No.
But like heroin, you're just going to shit your pants and feel like you have the flu.
I mean, no, heroin can be a little bit different depending on how severe it is, but some people can really need to be in a detox for that. But amphetamines, no. So anyway, dude moves back in with his parents. As I'm living with mine, his younger brother sells meth. Well,
who needs Adderall? We can give meth.
Like I've never done meth before. It's not cocaine, and until I can get in to see a new doctor and get back on my medicine, of course.
Right, and our head's telling us this. So at that time of your life, you weren't back in the rooms yet.
No.
You were using Adderall for however long.
Yeah, I was like 15 years sober, right?
Meth probably sounded like a perfect idea.
It's got the word amphetamine in it.
Right.
Like my Adderall.
Amphetamines.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So start doing that. Well, it didn't take long to be off to the races for that. So anyway, my parents are catching on that some things are just like, wait a second, you are on a medical leave for 12 months? Like, what's going on with you?
Like, you're just feeding lies, basically.
Well, no, I was like, I'm just taking a medical leave to just deal with some stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm stressed out.
Right. Well, whatever. And you were, but okay. So you're off to the races.
Off to the races, and anyway, I pocket dialed a phone call on my mom's voicemail at work about, this is some bad dope that we got. Like, this is fucked. We gotta get something different. Not knowing that I had pocket dialed her, so I go to my house thinking I'm gonna go home and like get some clothes and take a shower or whatever. Mm-hmm. And both my parents are sitting at the kitchen table, and it's that same look when they found the cigarettes in my backpack, like, and they're not angry. It's like, what is going on? How do we help you?
Yeah.
And so they were like, so we know that you've been using. Well, what do you mean? You recorded all of that on my voicemail. So my mom left work, and this is like right before, it was like 2 weeks before Christmas. And, my dad was like,
crushed.
Well, no, he was like, we will do anything that we can possibly do to support you in your recovery. But you have to go to treatment. And if you're not going to go to treatment, you have to leave. And you're not allowed to see your kids unless your mother and I are present or their dad is present. And all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to. Okay, hold on a second. And I'm just like, they're like, we'll get you in somewhere. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, it was not like an attack or anything. But I felt so wrong by the world. Like, I lost my house. I lost my job. I am in this
your husband.
In this horrible relationship that I also couldn't let go of. And I was like, the world owed me something. Right. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. I'm going to think about it. And of course, like, I'm just going to go. I'm going to get a hotel for a few days. Just, ride this out. It's going to work out. And I actually didn't think they were going to make me leave that night. But they had my ex come and pick up my kids, and they left. And then I was like, hanging out in my room. My dad's like, I meant you need to leave now. Oh.
Was this one of the first times you experienced that from them? Like that type of, no, like they put their foot down type of deal?
Well, the day they found out was the day, hey, these are your choices. You will not continue this behavior in our home, but we're willing to do whatever we need to do to get you the help you need. But I wasn't willing to do that.
Right.
The drugs had too big of a hold on me at that point. And the thought of like not having my amphetamine was just an inconceivable thought. I didn't think that was going to be possible in any way.
Well, and this is kind of a justification statement, but like, doctor prescribed amphetamines for however long that it was working properly.
And I told him I was an addict. They said it was okay.
Get out of here. So, but what I'm getting at is like, you started the right way. You were honest with them. You're taking, and it evolved into something that was terrible. And then, yes, the world comes crashing down again.
Well, and it's a highly addictive substance.
Of course.
And I had no people in recovery in my corner calling me on my bullshit.
Right.
And it was just me running that show.
Right. You had no network at all of recovery anymore.
My family didn't know that I was on Adderall.
Oh, they didn't?
No, because like...
So to them, you just all of a sudden, now you're on this meth shit. Or dope. All they knew was dope.
I think, just cocaine, or they just they knew it was not good.
Yes.
So anyway, I pack my stuff and leave, and I think that I'm gonna go do what I need to do for a couple weeks. Come back around Christmas. Well, that turned into 22 months, and I'll make this part kind of quick because I gotta get to the recovery stuff.
Yeah.
I'm talking a long time. So I was gone 22 months, and for 22 months, I lost my driver's license. I lost my car. I lost custody of my kids. I lost my nursing license. I got a 5th-degree felony. I went to jail multiple times, and I was living in a car that didn't run, and I was having to get food at Union Gospel Mission. Let me tell you the best part, though. I can remember called my mom one day because I was fucking hungry. Like, I was hungry, and I'd burned up all these restaurants. My food had a hair in it. I want a refund. You know, all that shit. And I was hungry. Like, I was just annoyed. Like, I needed a fucking meal. And I called my mom, like, hey, maybe she'll pay for an order at Chipotle or something, and I can go in and get it. She goes, I'm not going to do anything that is going to make your time out there any easier. So you can go eat in a homeless shelter. And you know what? That's the kind of shit that saves people's lives. If they would have given me money, if they would have bailed me out of jail.
That's called enabling.
Yeah, but when it's your child, that was some hard shit that a lot,
probably hurt your mother way more to have to say that to you than what you thought you were going
through. I said some real jackass shit back. Like, I'm going to go prostitute or something.
Right.
And that was just like a really hurtful thing. Like, make her feel bad. That's what the disease.
That's what we do. Yeah, that's addiction. Anyone listening, like, that's addiction.
Get out of my way.
Deflect, and try to hurt.
So, and I knew never to really. I never asked them for anything because I knew that was probably going to be the response.
Like the inevitable.
They left some food out in a paper bag for me one time outside. I was not allowed in the house. They changed the locks. They wrote me out of their will. Because I snooped through their email. That was how I knew. Because I wanted to see what they were saying, what they knew, what they were thinking.
Right.
And, it was just like, if she's not in any point of sobriety and something happens to us, everything goes to her sister, and her sister will decide if she gets anything. And they did that like a month later. Like, they don't fuck around. Right. And they were smart.
Yeah.
They were smart.
Like you said, like what your mom said, you're right. That is what saves lives.
It is. And, could I do that to my kid? I don't know, but that's what you have to do to save them, I think.
Yeah, hopefully you never have to find out, but you're right.
Yeah. So anyway, it started off like partying, but of course, I kept saying to myself, like, this is how like weird this is. The whole time I'm out there using, and just getting deeper and deeper into my addiction. And it wasn't until I was like smoking a meth pipe that somebody was like, you're not fucking sober. What the fuck are you talking about? You're smoking meth. And I'm like,
oh, you're still playing this? No, I don't drink or do cocaine.
I had still not accepted that I was in a full relapse.
That you're an addict now again.
Well,
an active.
No, I hadn't accepted that I had lost all my clean time. And so when they pointed that out to me, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess you're fucking right. I went to the liquor store, and then it was like
Right. Then it was really.
Yeah, it's fucking on now. What do they got in the liquor store? I want some cocaine. I want some ecstasy. I want this. All the shit that I never got to have one more time with.
Right.
And so, but the steady drug the whole time was definitely meth. And then, of course, you graduate from like, oh, I'm just going to smoke it to I'm going to shoot it up.
Right.
Because it's always more. You gotta have more, and it has to be a much higher intensity than the last time. But it was to the point too where if I ran out of drugs or meth, that if I had any bouts of clarity, like a couple hours of sobriety, that was so painful and traumatic for me because I would get this little glimpse like, hey, you've been saying you're going to get that Rule 25 or you're going to go home 6 weeks ago. Now it's been 6 months. And, and the sad thing about this is like, I knew that I could call my parents anytime. And all I had to say was I'm ready to go to treatment. And I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And then so much time had passed. Like nothing happened with my kids, but I just didn't show up to court because obviously I wasn't opening any mail.
Right.
And my ex-husband did that just to protect himself in case something happened. And, their dad, like they'd come pick me up sometimes and like take me out to dinner or to a hockey game. And, if I had a working phone, I would call them, say them, but like, I never told them where I was or what I was doing. Like there was never, oh, mom's going to be home next week. Like,
right.
I just never said that.
You didn't make
stuff.
Empty promises. Did your best not to.
But I was a Girl Scout cookie mom. I was a hockey mom. I was a really good mom. And then my kids went from not having a mom at all. I mean, having this mom
having all that to nothing.
To not seeing their mom at all and not knowing why. And so, I knew that was happening. Like, I wasn't seeing my family at Christmas. Like, I mean, it was starting to get like, do they even know me anymore? And there was so much shame about what happened and so many awful things that happened that I'm like, what is the point of going back?
Well, yeah, that becomes that heavy door or that 1,000-pound phone, and the longer your weight, the heavier it gets.
Or you don't have a phone at all.
or just no phone, yeah.
Yeah, and so like I remember the first time I went to jail, my main focus was I got to get my car out of the impound because I hadn't lost my car yet. I still had a bunch of clothes. I had my computer. Like I needed to get that car back.
Right.
So I had 72 hours in there, but it wasn't long enough to really let some clarity sink in. I had to get that car. So I get the car, back out to the races. They didn't charge me with that charge for 10 months. So I'm thinking they must have lost that.
Of course. That's what their heads do. They forgot. They're not going to charge me. Yes.
So, and of course, there's always some idiot that you're with like, oh, yeah, sometimes if too much time passes, it's not valid. Oh, okay, yeah, that's what's going on. So then, I get a ride from somebody that picked me up in the same car that I had always seen him in. Turns out this one was stolen. And, getting arrested out of a stolen car is really fucking traumatic.
Yeah, guns drawn and all.
Yeah. And when I used to see police growing up, I was like, that means I'm safe.
Yeah,
this time they're like, step out of the car with your hands above your head. And they were like mean. Like, I'm just a nurse from the suburbs. What are you being so mean to me for? But then I was like, oh, and I had a needle in my pocket.
Yeah, you're the bad guy. You are the bad guy.
So I got a charge for that, and then I didn't. Of course, you don't know you have court, so I don't go to court. Now I've got
active warrant.
A warrant, and I tried doing a couple of the piss tests to
color wheel stuff.
Do the color wheel stuff, but like if you don't have a phone in a car, how are you supposed to go get those UAs done? Or how are you going to figure out how you're going to get your fake pee in time?
Right.
Because you got to fake that if you don't want to. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, got a warrant, got put back in jail, and this time I was in there. I think 14 days, and I was at Ramsey County, and then I got moved to Washington County, and you know what? I needed that. I needed to sit in there because at that point, when I got to jail, I was relieved.
Right.
I was relieved. It was like I can rest. I'm safe. I'm gonna have food, and yeah, this is.
Think about what you're saying. Think about how bad it got that jail was your safety zone.
Yeah.
Like our normies that listen to the show, they hear this shit, but don't like.
The first time I went to jail was so traumatizing. I was like, is this even legal? They're making me take my clothes off and bend over, and they're putting me in these disgusting underwear and orange scrubs, like, and they're taking my picture, and like it was in the handcuffs and getting locked in a car. Like, that was fucking dehumanizing.
Yep. But and then it's just second nature when you, after all that.
So the third time I went, and it was because I sat in there and I was able to get that shit out of my system, that I was able to, like, where am I? What has happened? How much time has passed? I want to fucking go home. And so I had been called, like, I didn't know how to use a jail phone. Those are complicated. And I'm, somebody's trying to show me how to use the phone. Like, you better give me your shampoo or something. I'm like, I don't know how this works. And so I'm calling. You don't know anybody's phone number except for mom and dad's.
Right.
So I'm calling and calling and calling, like, any chance I get, because you get to use the phone like once every 2 days.
Yeah.
It hangs up. And I call my sister and I'm like, what is going on? Like, do they know I'm in here? Like, why is nobody answering? Do you understand this is me calling? Because, they do there's somebody calling from a corrections.
Yes.
And so finally I called again and they answered. And I was just livid. Like, I've been calling. I'm ready to go treatment. Why won't you answer the phone? I'm like, oh, we were just letting you sit in there.
Yes.
And I was like, what? And, and I'm like,
I think, again,
they knew exactly who was calling. They were like, we're just not going to answer this. That's so, like, that's
was
fucking
it just
genius.
you and your sister, 2 kids?
Yeah, but that shit is genius.
Yeah, well, is she's a good kid? I mean,
yeah.
Okay, so they knew.
They never treated us any different, but I definitely got.
You made bad choices on your own.
Oh, for sure.
And they knew exactly who was calling from the jailhouse. Come on.
Oh yeah, I just thought they didn't know how the jail phone worked, and they were hanging up. No, they knew. And so my mom comes and gets. I said, I'm gonna go. We're only coming to get you if you go to treatment. Okay, so they come and get me 11.
They bail you out?
My mom bailed me out.
Okay.
Weighed like 135 pounds. Hadn't weighed that since I was in 7th grade.
Oh, you got your weight down.
Got all those orange scrubs and thought I was looking good. Anyway, she picks me up 11 o'clock at night.
All right, so this is what, 7 years?
This would have been in July of 2016.
Okay, all right. So 5, 6.
So, and my original sobriety date was July 26th of 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, wouldn't this be weird if my sobriety date was July 26th again, just with a gap? And anyway, she picks me up and I go home and I'm just like, I'm fucking terrified because I haven't seen my dad in 22 months. Because I would go to my house and I saw my mom a couple of times, but I was too scared to see my dad because, I think the shame, and I would have made, I don't know why, I felt like that would have been a roadblock to my using.
Right. And
it would have been way too painful. And like my mom, she just would be like, well, why don't we try this? And why don't we try that? And I know my dad probably wouldn't say anything. And I don't know. So I was scared to go up in that kitchen. He's sitting there and, he gave me a hug and I eat because I hadn't eaten any good food for a couple years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sleep. And then, of course, some of the old shit follows you home. Like I had a really dysfunctional friend that I was using with that didn't understand that I wasn't going to be seeing him anymore. He took the liberty to go into my parents' house when I was gone with my sister and thought that I was in the house. And anyway, he got arrested in their yard. Mm-hmm. We had to get, just like to me, it wasn't. Yeah,
your old life is still showing up now.
Like, that wasn't a big deal because nothing happened. He didn't do anything. He went right back outside, but like that was traumatizing. And like that was not okay.
Some dope addict just went to your parents' house.
In the middle of the day, just walked right in.
Yeah, like that is a big deal. You know that. Now.
But at the time though, I had like, 3 weeks and I'm like, oh, but I felt so safe and relieved.
Right.
Because I was home, And so, so that was stressful, trying to get some of my belongings back from an impounded car where this necklace was inside. And
The same one you're wearing?
Yeah, I've had this necklace. It was my dad's from the 70s, and I always wore it. And that necklace was in this car. My few belongings that I had left were in this car. So anyway, go on this goose chase.
The
And
one thing you didn't hawk. Okay. All right.
yeah,
No,
but
I'm joking.
No.
I don't know you to say that. I'm sorry.
I know. No, the rest of my shit was stolen.
Okay. Yeah, perfect.
I did get smart and take out a title loan on my car, and of course didn't pay it back. And then my car got repossessed.
Yeah.
Just dumb shit.
Yeah.
Anything to just get ahead.
Addict shit.
Addict shit.
Yeah.
So, and I emptied my savings, my 401k. Like, you're just gonna keep this party going and deal with the
Yeah.
rest later.
That's what we do, though.
Yeah.
That's addict shit.
I didn't want to go steal anything.
So in 22 months' time, everything's gone.
Everything.
You go to jail. You get out. Mom brings you to,
Back home.
and then
And then I get a Rule 25, get some insurance. I go to New Beginnings,
New Beginnings. Shout out.
out in the cornfield.
Yep.
So I go there, and of course, it's like, I don't really need to be here. I'm just doing this because I'm probably going to be ordered to go when my court
I'm
stuff
just getting
comes up.
ahead of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just getting ahead of it. And my parents, we're gonna drop you off on a corner if you don't go.
Right.
And, in that time that I was home waiting to get into treatment, they were with me constantly. Back, my dad's driving me to meetings back 2218. I started going to 2218 back in 2001.
Oh,
Back when
so,
you could smoke in here.
hey, damn, you're a vet.
Yeah. And so my dad brought me to a meeting, and I didn't even know that it was I maybe knew it was an NA meeting, but it was the one that worked out with our schedule. And
Like on a Tuesday.
I went to the usual suspects.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, where John T. and Brandon were there. And anyway, it was the first time I had ever been to an NA meeting, or any meeting for that matter. And I heard some people share some really ugly, raw shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so much shame going back into these rooms because people were like clapping for their clean time. And I'm like, why you stabbed this many years? And like, I felt so broken, but at the same time, like, I knew that was where I needed to be.
Right.
And I remember just sitting in the back, like cowering and like, not looking at anybody, but also feeling really at home. And that's when I kind of decided, like, the way these people are talking in this meeting, I think that I maybe need to try this fellowship this time. Because they were saying some really powerful shit that I could relate to.
Right.
And it was not pleasant stuff. Like, I was like, are they really saying that out loud? But it was so impactful, and it was real.
Right.
And
right.
so that has been what I have really been drawn to and come to love about Narcotics Anonymous, because we can come in and say some really fucked up things, like ugly, nasty shit, and that's okay, because the person next to you is probably thinking it too.
Or done worse.
Done far worse, yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, I go to treatment. Of course, I had this attitude, and it was a really strict treatment center. Like, I think I called my counselor a bitch to somebody in the druggy buggy van on the way to gym class, and they overheard it. And the next day, they called me in to their office, like the clinical director and my counselor, like, well, we heard what you said yesterday, and we don't think you have a good attitude, and we would like to know why you think you need to be here, because we're wondering if we should even keep you. These motherfuckers. Am I not allowed to be angry? And that nipped that behavior right away, and they didn't even really, like, let it get out of hand.
Right.
At all. They were just like, if you're going to fuck around here, you're going to leave.
Yep. Someone else is like, yeah.
Because that's what you got to do with some addicts.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
And so, yeah, and I'm glad that I was all the way out in the country. I would have probably left if I would have gone to, like, New Way or Perk Ave.
Right.
I knew that if I was away from my parents, that I was probably not going to succeed. And so I managed to, my dad let me come back home after treatment. I did not go into sober house. I had to get my driver's license back.
Why didn't you go to sober house?
Because I knew if I didn't have that, I knew seeing my parents every day was going to keep me clean. And I knew that if I was around anybody that even talked about drugs, or somebody that I maybe knew from using when I came back to the cities, it was going to take nothing for me to go back out. Nothing. and especially how gross and ugly, and like basically I never processed any emotions since 2013 because it was like masked with shopping,
Right.
online dating, Adderall, and then really I felt nothing for 2.5 years because
Right.
it was just full drugs, and so that was some painful realization stuff. And so
I asked, that's the only suggestion I never took from my counselors leaving my inpatient was sober living. I went to my parents. And that my thing was this, is I knew I wouldn't find a syringe on the floor there. I knew I wouldn't
Yep,
find an empty
yep.
bag. And I'm not knocking sober living. I'm
no,
not.
it's great for,
I know hundreds of people that have succeeded, started through there.
Mhm.
I was at a buddy's wedding, just like a lot of success stories. But on the other hand, also, I knew I wasn't going to find anyone ODing at my parents'
Yeah.
house. And that happens around, it can happen in sober houses. I'm not saying it does.
It can, no
I
matter
knew it
how,
wasn't going to happen at my parents.
yeah, no matter how great the program is
Yeah.
or how well it's run. At
It's just like you or me. We were raised by great parents. We chose to make bad decisions. It's not their fault, just like a sober house. It's not a sober house's fault.
Right.
What I'm saying is I protect myself by,
Yeah,
plus I had that option.
yeah,
You know how many of these other people, it's either a sober house or the streets?
right.
That's why, and I didn't mean to go off on that. That's why it's kind of like,
Oh,
why
no.
did you choose to go home instead of,
I begged them to let me come home. And so I went to outpatient treatment. I stayed in that for 18 months.
Mhm.
So here's the other thing. This is like, of course, I'm in treatment, writing letters to this guy who also is in treatment. We really liked each other when we met doing drugs, but he's clean now too. And of course, now we're really going to try to give this a go.
Mhm.
And we're writing letters every couple days. He said, he's in treatment, I'm in treatment. Anyway, we get out. I'm back home with my parents. Things going okay. Lots of really bad depression, whatnot. When I finally got clean, I had 9 cavities. I couldn't see. I had no glasses because I traded them for a bag of dope.
I'm sorry.
And the other scary thing is, like, I had some melanomas removed in like 2012. For like, they were actual melanomas removed,
Yeah.
and I had not been going and getting my skin looked at. Well, I went to a dermatologist after my mom she paid the outstanding bill so that I could go back, which I paid her back, but I needed to have my skin looked at, and here it turns out I had a huge melanoma
What is a melanoma?
it's a really invasive skin cancer that's really fatal.
Yep. Okay.
And so he was like, it's glad that you got clean when you did and you're here because you didn't have much time left with this one.
Mm.
And they got it all. So I was really grateful for that. And, just how you neglect your general health.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just really astonishing, like how fast things can go south. But anyway, me and this guy, we're like in love, and I'm going to meetings, and like, anyway, he's living with his sister in Golden Valley, and she says that, hey, I can live there too. And I'm like, well, then my parents don't need to deal with me. Anyway, I move in with him. I'm still going to outpatient treatment. I'm showing up in my kid's life the best I can when I can get a ride and going to meetings. And this guy helps me get my driver's license back to pay the reinstatement fees.
He's doing the deal.
Yeah, and he was going to meetings too, but, turns out after a little while, he's like, I'm done with drugs. I'm still going to drink once in a while.
Mm.
And I didn't want to let this relationship go, but I also knew what that meant. I knew because those old timers had told me it doesn't work to quit one and do another.
No. That's
And
substituted.
I knew because I knew from the beginning that I couldn't date somebody in early recovery that was going to drink because it wouldn't take me long to do it. So anyway, I'm hanging in this relationship. He tells me we're going to this family function. It's like a Vikings family Sunday afternoon party. And I'm feeling like I probably shouldn't go to this, but, it'll be okay. Everybody there knows I just got out of treatment. So having an okay time, getting kind of bored. He looks at me and he's like, and I remember I actually called somebody I went to treatment with that lived in that area to see if they were home.
At exit route?
Yeah,
Escape
just
plan?
like, maybe I should just see if I can get a ride home and not be here anymore. And he looks at me, and somebody was passing out beers, and they offered him one, and he looks at me, he's like, do you think we can just have one? And I was like, oh, you know what? Okay, let's go. You drink. You want to see what, I'll show you.
Right.
he had 1. I had 8. We go back to his sister's house right back there. I already had somebody waiting for me at the gas station because I'm like, well, if I lost my 85 days sober, I'm gonna
make it count.
I'm gonna give my 1 more, my last one. Of course, I thought I was gonna be gone 15 minutes. It was, I don't know, it was like October 10th. No, October 12th. At 10 o'clock at night. It's cold. I leave. No money, no phone charger, no jacket. Thinking, I'm mad, I'm gonna go get cigarettes and be right back. And I walked down there and I thought I was gonna be gone 15 minutes and I was gone 4 days. And I picked up right where I left off and it was 10 times worse. I was smoking crack and the paranoia from smoking crack. I was running down Maryland Avenue in slippers and ran to a CVS because I thought the leaves crunching, I thought people were chasing me. And I didn't know if I should ask for help. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I was scared to call my parents because now I'm like, oh man, I really fucked up. Like, they're going to know now because it's been a couple days. And that was so awful. So then they called the police because I wasn't acting right at 4 in the morning at CVS. Like, everybody that came in, I was like, oh my God, And I went there to charge my phone on the picture thing because I didn't have a fucking charger. Anyway, the cop comes in and I'm like, I've been using, can you just take me to jail? I want to just take me fucking back to jail.
Right.
He's like, do you got any drugs? I don't think so. Well, you can have a look. Let's go. I want to get in the car. Let me get out of here. And he's like, I think we're going to take you to the hospital. He took me to Regions and I probably needed to go to the hospital. It was bad. And so anyway, my parents ended up coming to pick me up. Not from the hospital. There was a few more things that happened after that because I still was like, well, maybe just a little bit more.
Right. Once you got clear enough to know
well, they let me out at 11 a.m. the next day. You could only stay there for a certain amount of time. And anyway, they picked me up and, okay. Then I go to outpatient treatment and I'm like, this is what happened. And that was it. October 20th, 2016.
That guy, what's never again?
I never saw him ever again because he really cared about me and liked me.
So, like, that's not his fault?
Well,
do you see it as his fault?
I don't, but I had told him I can't drink.
Right.
I can't drink, and I was so angry because I thought we were going to do this recovery thing together, like most people do when they get out of treatment with their partners. We were going to do this together, and now you're leaving me hanging.
Yeah. I see both sides, but as the host, I'm going to be the devil's advocate and
absolutely.
say, like,
absolutely,
who's in control of your recovery?
Me.
I know, and
but I'm just kind of explaining, I'm just explaining like my mindset,
right.
Like how I justified that, and like why.
No, and I see it happen all the time. Like, if that's the plan, but I mean. And as you
there wasn't any forward thinking.
No,
my mom's like, "Do you think you should be moving out?" Oh, it's gonna be fine. I got this.
Right.
I'm gonna be okay.
I got this. Them are the scariest.
And of course I lied and said his sister has a room that she said I can stay in. I didn't say I was moving in with him.
Right.
Of course, gotta like.
Right.
So anyway, I go to outpatient treatment. I'm going to meetings, and this relapse like traumatized me. Like all my hair fell out in the back of my head as like a traumatic response. So I end up my first 6 months of recovery. I gained 50 pounds. I have no hair in the back of my head.
This is the shit we do, people. You hear this?
I should post a picture of what that looked like because it's the size of a cantaloupe, and it was bald as a baby's butt. And so I didn't know what was going on. And basically they were like, well, did you have anything really traumatic happen? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to get like cortisone injections in my scalp, like 50 of them, like every month. It took a year for my hair to grow back.
Really?
Yeah. I had to have like an echocardiogram done on my heart. I had to take blood pressure meds because.
Well, that crack's no joke either, though.
Crack and meth on 85 days sober when you pick up.
Yeah, and you're out in,
awful. No sleep, just.
Like, I know factually there's a couple people that listen to this that have never even picked up anything. Like, they maybe have cocktails here and there. They are normies. Yeah. Like, and sometimes I talk to them and they're just like, oh, that one guess you had, like.
That wasn't a smart choice.
No, and that's why you'll hear me play the devil's advocate or sound like I'm being an ass. But I hope by now, I'm not. When I'm like, you knew better. Whose recovery is it? Like she's sharing about like she had cancer. Shit, she lost teeth. Like this is what addiction looks like. Cavities, whatever.
Yeah, this is addiction.
This is addiction. Like she tasted 13 years of recovery, happy household, family. And the shit happens. It happens. This is addiction.
Because I didn't put my recovery first. That was not a priority when it definitely should have been, because life will continue to show up on life's terms. So just like jumping forward, I waited until I had a year sober to deal with possibly wondering if I could ever be a nurse again. Because here, I don't know how to do anything other than be a nurse that takes care of babies.
Right.
So, and I had these criminal charges. Anyway, I end up getting into HPSP. It was a big ordeal. I had to take
HPSP.
It's the Health Service Professionals Program. So anybody with like a medical license, pharmacist, dentist, if they have a substance abuse problem or they're abusing something, they can voluntarily check themselves into this program.
Ruth, we had a nurse on here named Ruth who shared about this.
So it's a great program. But if you're not dedicated to being clean, it's a real hard program to get around because, and their job is to protect the public.
Yes, and it gives someone like you who's really trying right now, let's say this part of your life, it gives you another chance.
Yeah, I was so grateful for that chance, and I had to jump through some big hoops. It took 4 years to get my license back. And I wish that I would have started the process sooner, because I didn't know that no matter what, I was going to get a 1 year suspension. And so I got the 1 year suspension at 1 year clean because I was so scared that they were going to say no. And I didn't know if I could stay clean through that.
Right.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to deal with this later. And, I'm going to get a little more stable because I knew this stuff worked. Like I knew recovery worked, but the recovering from like IV drug use and the 22 months of the mess that I made, that shit is a lot harder to come out of than just doing a little cocaine in the South.
Yes.
And I really honestly, I didn't want to live, but I had to for my parents. But I knew from coming to these meetings and listening to people that we can get through this. Like if I hadn't have had that when I was younger, I don't know if I would have made it. And I don't think I would have made it if I would have gone into a sober house, but maybe that's just because how I grew up, but I needed that accountability from people that I was going to be scared of.
Right, you're Brandon's and you're Darren's. You know what? I'm an ass. I let you go. Your story is great. Like you've had an awesome. You've been telling me it for almost 2 hours.
Oh
right?
dear! Oh my God!
But that's on me. I'm the host. I
just talked to the good part yet, and how wonderful
I know,
it is.
and
I'm sorry.
Don't know what. This gives me a reason to have you back on because. It's almost it's 10:58.
Oh my God!
I know, and I'm a big proponent of like snapping about meetings that there's certain meetings I've gone to. We yell, get sober already when they're telling their story. It's like, come on, let's get to it. But this is we usually 2 hours. We're like, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, I don't like to share the gore stuff, but
but you know what? And
my addict thinking.
What's your clean date?
October 20th, 2016.
2016. So
it'll be 6 years in October.
And we can go long. We can go a couple extra minutes.
Well, just a couple extra minutes.
I want some highlights, some big highlights of this last 6 years.
The first couple years, I went to about 9 meetings a week.
Okay.
I got really uncomfortable, and I went to a women's meeting, and I went up to a girl, and I was like, "Will you be my sponsor?" And that was uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That was. Really
and what'd she say?
Yeah, you gonna do some work, because I only work with sponsees that want to do the step working guide. I don't want to hear about any boy drama. I'll make time for you if you're gonna do the work, but I don't want to hear about anything else.
And you worked the steps with her?
Yeah.
That was your sponsor?
Yeah.
And it worked?
She still is my sponsor.
And she still is your sponsor?
Yeah, and Alyssa S. And
do you see your kids?
No, Alyssa H. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, I see my kids all the time. I have a wonderful relationship with my kids.
Do you have a job?
Yes.
And
I got to be a nurse again.
I want to hear about this place. We got time. I want to hear all about this place.
At a women's treatment center. It's called, I worked at Wayside. I was the nurse there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so grateful that I could work in this field, because I didn't know how to be a nurse that took care of adults or like in a hospital setting. Like I just didn't know how to do that, but I knew addiction and I knew chemical dependency. So I was so grateful that I got into that. I'm still in HPSP. By the time I'm done with HPSP, I'll have been getting UAs for 7 years. And that's okay. Like I pay for my UAs. I had to go do one at HCMC this morning, and but I get to do them.
Yeah, that's what's up.
And
you heard her say, "I get to do."
I get to pay for them, and I get to go to work. So what I finally. I'd been living at home for a long time, and I finally moved out, and I got an apartment by myself.
When did you do this?
In May. Yeah, and you know what? Like my friends in recovery, like came apartment shopping with me, helped me pick out furniture, got me a coffee maker for my new place because this was a big change for me, and it was scary because like I don't have my parents didn't babysit me, but like I couldn't lay around and sleep all day. And like, if I didn't come home, like I would think about shit, like I'm going to be there all by myself. Nobody's watching, just like in Georgia.
Right. But
because I have a home group.
Mm-hmm. When is that?
Wednesday.
Where?
Usual Suspects at 2218.
At what time?
6:30.
Okay.
And also the new one that we started, By Any Means Necessary, on Tuesdays at 6:30.
Where's that?
Here.
At 2218 in the annex, I believe?
Yeah, our auditorium down on the...
Well, there's an annex in the back.
You walk through the gardens.
There you go. You walk through the beautiful gardens at 20... What gardens?
Well, my gardens that I planted, sadly...
Oh, we need so much more time.
The heat killed them, but the gardens are looking wonderful. I think Victor and maybe somebody else has been putting some mulch down. I did transplant a few shrubs recently, but...
So when you come to 2218, all these beautiful flower plants outside the windows, all these planter boxes that you shouldn't throw cigarette butts in, all that stuff back by our beautiful garden, Jen is the one who does that. Jen does that stuff.
We had some issues
How much you get paid to do that?
I don't get paid anything.
Oh, you just do it?
I get to do it.
Oh, yeah, I want so much more time with you. Here, I'm going to ask you while we're on air, will you come back on when I have Brad on, the same one who was on the show?
I will, because I'm mad I didn't get to spend my time talking about how wonderful...
It's not on you. It's on me. I was intrigued by your story. I think...
Yeah, because there's so much more to say about recovery and like how amazing it is. Can I just share one quick thing that happened this morning?
This is your show. Go ahead.
Okay, so this was really magical what happened this morning. I have this sponsee that I just started, we just met a couple weeks ago. She's been calling me from treatment, whatever. So I'm at HCMC up on the 4th floor doing my P test, hurrying up to leave to go to work. And I get out of the elevator and I see a missed call from HCMC, just a random number. I call it back and I'm like, maybe I left my code or something in the lab. That's weird. They got my phone number so fast.
Right.
And I get out of the elevator, I'm wearing a mask. This other person's wearing a mask. Can't really tell who people are. And she goes, Jen. And I go, yeah, who are you? It's me. Someone's from the meeting. She goes, I just tried calling you. And I'm like, that was you that called? I'm like, did you see me walk in here? Like, why would you call me from here when I'm here? She goes, I'm really scared. We got COVID and I'm not from this area, and my treatment center said I gotta leave because I can't go back because I have COVID. And she was scared, didn't know where she was. She was from a small town, and she had called me, and I come out of that motherfucking elevator.
So you need more time.
Oh, I got higher power. Anyway,
higher power shit right there.
That was some real magical stuff. So I gave her a hug, gave her some...
The girl who just said she had COVID, you gave her a hug?
Because I just had COVID. I'm immune.
I didn't just have COVID.
Well, I'm not giving it to you.
Ooh, now I'm in my head about this. You hugged a girl with COVID today.
It's not on my clothes. Whatever. Anyway, so that was just a really...
I'm going to start screening my guests.
That was just a miracle thing that happened.
That is, though. That's higher power.
Tried to get a hold of me from a random phone number.
So she didn't see you? She just called you?
She called me. Had no idea I was there, and I got out of the elevator.
And that's someone from a meeting you met,
I met her at Fellowship 2 meetings in the last 2 weeks, and she wants me to be her sponsor.
What'd you say?
Yeah, of course. But I said, are you willing to do some work? give them step working guide, do some questions, because that's what it's about. So,
here at 2218, this is where you got to hear Jen's story. But she's gonna come back on and talk about the solution here. You know what? We had
solutions meeting.
We had like 10 different women hop on here and talk about girl power, and like this is awesome. Meetings are like medicine for us. Beautiful, amazing story. Thank you, Bridge. A lot of girls hopped on. You got a lot of support here.
I want to come back and talk more just about recovery.
Don't beat yourself up. This was awesome. This is what we do. This is what we talk about. Like we talk about getting here, and you know what? We could have a whole nother show. You've got another 2 hours to talk about the amazing shit that's happened in 6 years, right?
My life is so amazing.
Yes, and that's what we will talk about. I want
to talk about my job, the treatments that I work at. So I want to come back. You'll have me.
Yes, of course I will. I was just telling my mom about. I tried to regurgitate your story that you told us the night before the Ride for Recovery. That it is a woman's treatment center that can have their kids there, correct?
So they go to inpatient treatment, and when they leave, they can go into our sober homes, and they can reunite with their children there, and their kids can live there with them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is amazing, and we just had our grand opening. The place is called Anew, ANEW. It's where ADAP used to be, and
what city?
East St. Paul, on the east side.
So if someone were to reach out to me personally with wanting to know about some more info, can I?
Absolutely.
And I can reach out to you about it?
Yeah, or I can send you a link for our website, and I even have some cards with me.
Perfect. I will get a card or two from you, and I will get a link on here.
Thank you so much.
We ain't done yet. I know I've had the suicide hotline number up there I was so intrigued listening to her not paying attention to computer screen, so I apologize for having that on for so long. Like, I know that's not what we want to sit and think about, but just remember, like, if you're feeling alone, if you are hurting, like, mental health is real, and there's help out there. So you heard our guest tonight talk about, seeing a therapist and getting to meetings and sharing. Like, one of the key things is get that shit off your chest. And use this platform, use this podcast, do whatever you can to get outside yourself whenever you need to. Just reach out. You're worth it. Like, you're loved. You don't have to be hurting. You don't have to be alone. Get the help that's necessary if you're able to. So Jen, what are you grateful for these days?
I'm grateful to be alive.
Yeah, let's get into a little detail. What are you grateful for, Jen?
I'm grateful that I have such a wonderful supportive family, but I also am so grateful that I have a whole new family in the rooms of recovery where I can call and check in with people aside from my sponsor, that I have recovery functions to go to, like the camp outs, like all that stuff that seems kind of cheesy. Like, that's what makes it work. And I have to have friends in recovery, because some days really suck. Just because you get all of your stuff back doesn't mean you're going to be happy.
It's not all butterflies and sugar candy.
I take antidepressants. I see a psychiatrist. I still see a therapist every other week for the last 5.5 years. And I go to my meetings every week, even when I don't want to, because that's what I need, because I'll get into some real self-centered addict thinking behavior. And it doesn't necessarily entail drugs now. Like, I don't have the desire to go and use, but it will manifest in, I still struggle with food, body image, exercise, but I finally have had enough where I can love my body and just accept myself the best that I can. And I'm so grateful that I have my health and my kids. They do live with their dad, and I probably could have worked something out and doing 50-50, but it wasn't fair to them. It would have been too disruptive.
They're in your life?
They're in my life, and I go and see them at their house. I go out to dinner with them. They come and sleep over at my new apartment sometimes. But, I'm so grateful, and their dad is just a wonderful person that has always been so, we're always here for you if you need us. And, and I'm welcome over there anytime. And so I'm really grateful, and I love my job.
Thank you, Jen, so much for being on the podcast. And I think this was an awesome show, and you will be coming back with Brad. It'll probably be on that other date that you are committed to, if you're okay with that. I think that's in 2 weeks.
That's fine.
All right. So The name of the Tuesday meeting, what was the new name?
By NA means necessary.
Oh, I like the twist.
Yeah.
By NA means necessary. Tuesday at 6:30 here at 2218.
It's NA, yeah.
And Usual Suspects at 6:30 on Wednesdays here at 2218.
In the same room.
In the same room downstairs. Go through the beautiful garden. Jen, again, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing what you shared. And I'm looking forward to hearing part 2 of it. Thank you, audience. And again, you are loved. 2218, come down, be part of this club. Make this your club. Deuces.